When I was 12 years old, my parents stared me dead in the eye, handed me a single suitcase and said, "We are signing you over to your Uncle Arthur. We can no longer afford to squander resources on you because you just don't have the same potential as your twin sister." Because they believed I was stupid, they traded me away like a poor investment. I was dead to them for more than 20 years. However, the cosmos has a peculiar way of upsetting the equilibrium. 22 years later, they finally found me yesterday. They went into my life expecting to discover a damaged, struggling lady. Instead, the instant they saw my new family, my home, and the life I had established, their jaws hit the floor. The expression of sheer fear on their faces was worth every single tear I wept as a youngster. Follow my narrative till the finish, and remark the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Charlotte, and today I am 34 years old. But to properly understand how I built the life I have now, we have to go back to the exact moment my world broke into a million pieces. Growing up, I was the resident shadow in my own home. Qley, my twin sister, was the family's undeniable golden child. Qley was an obvious intellectual genius from the first day of school, winning awards, accolades, and perfect marks with ease. In contrast, I was always having trouble. Traditional assessments felt like a foreign language, and reading took me twice as long. My parents immediately classified me as the slow, underachieving twin who was simply not smart, rather than making an effort to assist me. My mere existence was viewed by them as a humiliating financial burden. When we were just 12, the breaking point came on a wet Tuesday afternoon. A pile of court documents rested on the coffee table in the living room when I was called in. My folks didn't give me a dejected look. With cold, planned finality, they gazed at me. They informed me that they had formally given my crazy Uncle Arthur permanent guardianship and gave me a single canvas suitcase. He resided on a far-off failing livestock farm hours away. Without hesitation, my father informed me that they had to devote all of their resources to Qley's promising future and could not continue to squander money on a child with no promise. They threw me out of their lives and traded me away like a bad investment. The 3 hours I spent driving to Uncle Arthur's farm were the longest and most peaceful of my life. I sat in the truck anticipating the worst, completely assuming I was being driven to a place of hard, relentless labor where my seeming ignorance would finally be exposed. The farm appeared worn when we got there, but there was an unanticipated calm that made my heart race less. Uncle Arthur didn't give me a list of difficult tasks or give me a dejected look. Rather, he gave me a steaming cup of cocoa and advised me to go to bed. Something amazing started to take place over the course of the following several weeks. I was never referred to as slow by Arthur. It didn't take him long to see that I was intelligent. Instead of staring at a textbook, I just learned by doing. He gently introduced me to the practical, hands-on realm of intricate livestock management, basic mechanical repair, and animal care. Arthur assessed my value based on my keen observational skills and my innate profound empathy for animals, whereas my parents had only considered my performance on standardized tests. I was not being compared to Qley for the first time in my life. I learned how to diagnose sick cattle, determine exact feed ratios, and oversee the day-to-day operations of the farm under his kind supervision. I had no idea that I had such a deep love for veterinary medicine and animal science until Arthur discovered it. He showed me that my parents were completely mistaken about my mental state and given me the confidence to think that I had a bright future. My biological parents were completely silent as the years passed. There were no birthday calls, no graduation cards, and absolutely no financial assistance. I was dead to them, fully removed from their beautiful family dynamic. But since I was doing well, I stopped caring. I focused all my attention into my studies, combining my hands-on farm experience with hard work, eventually gaining a full academic scholarship to a top-ranking university for veterinary medicine. Through some extended family members who continued to stay in touch, Uncle Arthur discovered a bitter, deeply buried reality while I was away at college. It turns out that while my parents were entirely engaged pretending to be top elites, their golden child Qley was covertly draining them dry. She had built an exceedingly luxurious lifestyle, demanding expensive automobiles, luxury trips, and finance for many elite business projects that all failed tragically within months. My parents had significantly leveraged all of their personal assets, taken out large, high-interest loans, and depleted their retirement accounts in order to maintain appearances of success. For the sole purpose of feeding Qley's conceit, they were deeply in debt. They had discarded me in order to conserve money, only to go bankrupt on the child they believed to be a secure investment. The balance was being subtly altered by the universe. I went back to the place that had saved me after graduating at the top of my class. I entirely converted Uncle Arthur's little cattle farm into a cutting-edge, extremely profitable veterinary hospital and expansive agricultural estate with his approval and my own hard-earned savings. With great success, we emerged as the area's top large animal medical institution. I met an amazing, encouraging companion along the route who greatly appreciated my motivation and enthusiasm. The old farmhouse was filled with warmth, joy, and complete security after we got married and had a lovely child. I experienced what a true family was like for the first time. One built on unconditional affection rather than transactional value and chilly expectations. It happened on a crisp Tuesday afternoon. Exactly 22 years after they had discarded me, I was checking the hospital's weekly financial records when a damaged, filthy automobile came up to our main security gates. I saw 3 figures emerge into the gravel yard through the office window. It took me a long moment to recognize them through the fog of time, but the cold pit that instantly formed in my stomach left no mistake. It was my biological parents and a bitter, absolutely exhausted-looking Qley. The decades had not been kind to them. The confidence they formerly wore like armor had completely dissipated, replaced with a hollow, desperate exhaustion. Their house of cards had finally succumbed to financial devastation, and they faced complete public bankruptcy. They had driven hours to find me, after learning through local rumors that the daughter they had written off as useless was the owner of the extremely prosperous agricultural land and prestigious veterinary facility. I saw them purposefully put fake smiles on their faces as they made their way to the clinic doors, getting ready to pretend to be loving, repentant parents who were merely seeking a sentimental reunion. They believed they could just enter my life again and use charm to gain access to my hard-earned money. They had no idea who was there waiting for them. Standing strong and proud in front of the folks who had deserted me, I left the private office and entered the general clinic room. I felt confident, wearing my professional scrubs with my stethoscope wrapped proudly around my neck. Beside me stood my husband, cradling our little child, forming a picture of absolute unity and success. The instant my original parents arrived through the door, their eyes traveled throughout the high-end facility, resting squarely on us. My real mother gave out a quick cry, her hand leaping to her lips in absolute disbelief, while my father and Qley stood completely transfixed, their jaws virtually striking the floor. They were struck, totally stunned by the sheer extent of the prosperity and stability I had established without them, breaking the somber quiet. With a shaky artificial smile, my father moved forward to assert a genetic allegiance that they had shattered decades earlier. He talked about family responsibilities, implying indirectly that it was my responsibility to save them from bankruptcy. My expression was utterly inscrutable as I allowed him to finish. Then, without saying a single word, I reached into the clinic desk and pulled out a laminated copy of the original legal abandonment paperwork they had signed when I was 12. I laid the document flat on the table between us. I told them gently that they had legally given away all rights to my life, my future, and my accomplishments 22 years ago. The woman in front of them today was completely unrelated to them. The finality of their previous decisions was gazing back at my parents and Qley as they gazed at the legal document on the table. Qley tried to yell, insisting that I owed them a portion because of genetics. However, my spouse discreetly moved forward, and they were led off the property by our security personnel. I gave them no financial assistance at all, leaving them to deal with the financial and legal fallout from their own avarice. I felt a deep sense of calm instead of rage as their wrecked vehicle drove away from our gates for the final time. My fate had been drastically altered by Uncle Arthur's everlasting faith in my special mind, demonstrating that true genius is determined by resiliency, love, and what you build from the ground up. Now I am really curious about all of you who have listened to my experience today. If you had been in my position at that clinic table, how would you have responded? Would you have given them a second chance, or would you Have walked away just like I did? Please share your opinions and comment below. If you find inspiration in my trip, be sure to press that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories of justice. Right now I am leaving on the final screen 2 other fantastic stories that are absolute channel favorites, and their surprising turns will undoubtedly surprise you. I appreciate you watching all the way through, and I'll see you in the next.